My dear Bagginses and Buffins.
By the blood of our people, are your lands kept safe?
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the Season 2 finale of the Rings of Power. That is Episode 8, Shadow and Flame. And, okay, I'm going to kick this off by saying I did not like this episode at all. I didn't enjoy myself at all.
You didn't?
I didn't.
I thought so. I actually liked the ending with Gandalf and Tom Bombadil sitting in the hut together, singing the song, and
There's
Gandalf
some
getting his
moments.
name.
Yeah, so there
That
were
was so cute. I actually, it was emotional to me. Like, good thing we don't do this live. I would
Yeah.
have been mocked on Twitter like Star Wars 3.
So yeah, so okay, there are moments that I think were okay, and some even that were good, but overall, and it's not even the plot necessarily, although the plot has a lot of issues. I don't like how the scenes are filmed. Every decision for the scene and how it progresses is the wrong decision in my books, and so for that reason, this is my least favorite episode of the series so far. I rolled basically every scene, minus a few that were decent, and so I feel myself going down as I was watching it. I felt myself going down to these depths where I'm like, am I gonna start becoming like all these other people on YouTube that are just hating on it for no reason? Like, I have my reasons. Like, it's not lore related, because I don't even know the lore sometimes. It's just the storytelling and how it unfolds. This doesn't have the same impact. All these scenes, we wrap up a lot of stuff in this episode, and the scenes are all missing a lot of emotional punch and like true stakes. I'll show you what I mean as we go through, but like, I just want to get that out of the way that I'm really not happy with this episode, and so I'm gonna try and rein it in a bit, but I'm gonna like each scene I'm gonna be basically pointing out problems, and so hopefully you can come along and point out the good stuff, because
Sure.
I was really upset with this episode. I watched it twice. I hated it more the second time. All right, so here we go. We kick things off with a little bit of a prologue to the episode, where we wrap up the dwarf storyline. And so Durin the Fourth is racing to find his father, and he meets Disa along the way, who's trying to heal and provide pain relief to some of these dwarves that Durin the Third has either killed or harmed badly, because they tried to get the ring off of him. So we find ourselves as Durin the Fourth walks in, he sees this scene in front of him, and he is just overwhelmed with anger and frustration and grief. And this is where he says, "No matter what you hear, don't follow me down that mine." So, all right, I will say, so far, no problems with the episode. So far, perfectly fine episode. I like how this is all going down so far. What happens next is just the tip of the iceberg for this episode and what's about to happen. And I will say, I actually like the conversation between Durin the Fourth and Durin the Third. I think this is really good writing here. This is good dialogue, and it's in keeping with the, what we think of as dwarves, and it's in keeping with, Middle Earth style dialogue. I think it's really good, actually. And even so far as to have something along the lines of, my father, you taught me that this isn't our mountain. And then to have him spin it and say, but with these rings, it could be. So you can see how even with old ancient dwarven wisdom and trying to like the way Durin the Fourth approaches this, I think is really awesome and noble, and something we could have seen out of a Peter Jackson take on this, where this character, we all think he's going to go fight his dad because that's like the traditional action movie thing, and here he would much rather try and talk his dad down, because he really can't bring himself to do it.
Yeah.
And I actually, so you said you were getting emotional at the last scene. I actually was getting emotional at this scene. I thought this was a really good scene. This might be one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, actually. Like this scene right here. And,
yeah, this is good. Yeah.
And like,
And he calls him when he calls him King Durin at the end.
Yeah. So all of that is good. My problem is how, like, what happens here. So we initially get the confrontation, and they have a great bit of dialogue. In fact, just people go and, even if you're not watching the show, I would say watch this scene, but we'll get a few others, and then maybe you watch the last scene to see what happened here. So we got some great dialogue here, and it's not until the conversation breaks down. So Durin the Fourth is not able to reach his father. His father is too possessed by the ring. So he goes ahead anyway and smashes through the rock and then says, "Come and see my son." Now, okay, I really don't like how this happens here. So think about it. Like, this is all I was thinking about. You're Durin the Fourth, right? You've been told your dad just killed a bunch of his household guards, and he's going through with breaking down this mountain, and there's going to be a monster behind it. So you're running to go stop him. You then get there and you realize, I'm not going to fight my dad. I'm going to try and talk to him. And he won't see reason. He then continues to go through with the plan that you know is bad, because your wife has told you there's a monster over there. He then does it. And then he's like, "Oh, come and see. Like, come and see this treasure I've found." And it's as if, like, Durin the Fourth forgets the whole point of what's happening here. Even if there is treasure, your wife says there's a monster there. She never said there wasn't treasure. There's a monster there. And your father just killed a bunch of dudes.
Well,
Like,
I know, but if he's opened it anyway, I mean, there's no closing that door. I might as well lock.
no, but just the way it's not, and this is what I said, it's not the plot necessarily. It's the way they film this. Because now Durin the Fourth is like, "Oh yeah, look at all this mithril." No. Your father is still massacring dwarves just to break through into this like, that's the whole problem here. And he's completely forgotten that. He's like looking out like, "Oh, look at this. My father was right. He should have killed those dwarves, and screw my wife. She's an idiot." Like, it completely undercuts the scene that we just had, where Durin the Fourth was so brave in it for standing up to his father, but not in a violent way. And so I really don't like how they had him kind of switch. And I get what they're going through, where they're trying to tempt Durin the Fourth with the power. There's just ways you could do this better, and I just don't like how they go about this. And then I really don't like what happens next. So, the Balrog comes. That's fine. We knew Balrog was coming, and I like the Balrog. The Balrog looks great, by the way. They copied Peter Jackson exactly, which is fine with us. So Balrog.
I mean, were they allowed? Like, how are they allowed to do that though? They don't have the rights.
I guess they talked to their legal team, and they're like, "Well, basically, Peter Jackson just did a generic demon-looking thing, so we can do it too."
I guess, like, was Peter Jackson going off artwork? Like,
No. So I was actually, ironically, I was watching before this episode a YouTube video of them interviewing Peter Jackson about making the Balrog, and in it he talks about how they initially had like almost like a rocky, scaly type monster, and he's like, no, it kind of just looked like a troll or something like that. And he's like, no, we need it to be a bit more,
demon.
well, like, it needs to be a bit more made of like material, like it needs to be made of rock with like magma kind of oozing out of it, and then they ended up just kind of shrouding it in like fire and smoke and clouds and stuff to give it like a So they just kind of made a demon, and I'm guessing the legal team's like, there's no like copyright on that. You can just make that look.
You can't copyright a demon.
No, because the thing
So
is,
it's
like
so
I've
he's like,
seen,
it's fine.
I swear I've seen the Balrog look in like old Magic the Gathering cards, for example, of like just like generic monsters.
Okay.
So like I don't think it's. So I think they were okay to use it. I mean, who am I? I don't know. Like maybe Peter Jackson's like, screw it. I don't care if you use it. It'll make it better.
Yeah.
And they use the whip. Now that I thought might be a Peter Jackson thing because they got a little flame whip. So, okay, let me just set the stage because this is where it starts falling apart for me. So during the third, after busting through this mine, it's been a long day, he decides to sit down on a rock and like, rest because he's done what he wanted to do. Then the Balrog comes. Now his son kind of is moved away at this point, but during the third is still sitting down, and he gets whipped by the Balrog and he gets pulled. All right, that's fine. I mean, I don't know why he was sitting down necessarily, but whatever. He was tired. Okay, so Balrog whips him, but not off the cliff. I thought they were gonna do a Gandalf type thing where he's like hanging on and then drops. That would have been kind of cool to me, actually, even though it's stealing directly from that scene. The problem I have is how this fight transpires. So there's a giant Balrog that, by the way, the size of it changes throughout the scene. He then
there's some scale issues, you're saying.
Definitely scale issues. He then smashes his flame sword into the tunnel where the two dwarves are, which knocks back during the fourth. And there's also like, so the mountain starts kind of collapsing while the Balrog's like trying to get them. And I know Peter Jackson does something similar, but for whatever reason, he pulls it off so much better in that during the third is about to like kind of talk a bit more calmly to his son. And there's like a moment where they just are like not much is happening, and it just feels weird that I don't know, it just feels the way they film it feels like there's too much time between the initial attack and when the next fight happens. And I don't even quite understand what happens here. So during the third takes the ring off at this point, by the way. So the Balrog has jarred him out of what was possessing him. He's like, "Oh, I was wrong. This stupid ring."
But maybe he's not possessed. Like, remember, Galadriel gave up the ring to Elrond too, and Elrond straight up said,
"Oh, just to save the ring?"
He's just trying to save the ring. Yeah.
Okay, so you're right. Maybe he is still possessed. The problem I have is not with the ring necessarily. So essentially,
the one ring you can't do that for, but I guess these lesser rings you can willingly give them up.
Yeah.
But the one ring you can't willingly give up.
Except we've seen one person give it up.
Who?
Sam.
Oh, I mean, they kind of portrayed as like he's not sure. Then Frodo.
You're right. When we talk about that movie, when we do that one again, we'll talk about that scene because you're right. The way Peter Jackson, I think he deliberately leaves it a bit ambiguous. But anyway, back to this. Okay, so here we have the scene where King Durin III is saying very calmly.
I know. Actually, as a tangent, I'm gonna go on. Though.
Oh, you want to go tangent? Okay.
Because the first time I saw that movie, like when we were a lot younger.
Yeah. In theaters.
My interpretation was not that Sam couldn't give it up. He was seeing like how possessed Frodo was, and maybe I shouldn't give this back to him.
That's what my interpretation was too. So we're on the exact same page. I had I was like, oh, maybe Sam shouldn't give it back to this crazy weirdo. Like maybe Sam should keep it. He's clearly like becoming the hero that this story needed.
Yeah.
So no, I'm with you 100% on that. That was sort of when we watched that one. That's sort of what I was gonna say as well. Is that like to me, it's a bit ambiguous, but I think Sam is hesitant. He's like, Frodo was becoming such a weirdo with this ring around his neck. Now that he doesn't have it, there's more life to him. Maybe I should just hold on to it.
He's a weirdo, and I have to carry him everywhere.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna have to carry him up this mountain. Okay, so during the third says, and I like the line. It's not even the line. It's the fact that there's a Balrog here. And so he says, I never let you lift your hand. You were just getting stronger. Great. It's all good saying that like you are stronger than than you think you are to his son. Basically like giving him confidence. And I there's a Balrog in the background. They're staring at each other. We look down. We see no ring on his hand. We already saw him take it off, by the way. So I don't know why we're doing like a close-up of his hand again. It's all in weird slow-mo. He then says, forgive me, my son, and then charges at the Balrog.
Yeah.
Okay. So why did he charge at the Balrog? And he could be wrong. Like, characters can be wrong about what their abilities are. So maybe he thinks he can fight this thing. It just seems insane to me. He's taken the ring off at this point. See, to me, I think if you're going to have this wacko scene, you have him leave the ring on. But I know they wanted him to have redemption. Right. I like that too. I wanted him to have redemption. He's one of my favorite characters.
Now that we're thinking, I had thought about this. Do you think Gandalf having a ring of power helped him fight the Balrog?
I do. Although I'm kind of confused what these rings can do.
But he's also an Astari, so a dwarf with a ring probably cannot beat a Balrog, but an Astari with a ring.
No, but I thought maybe the ring would like possess him. If he had it still on, it would possess him to, attack the Balrog. But he doesn't have the ring anymore, and it's almost like a, don't worry, I will sacrifice myself to save all of dwarf kind. You're not, nothing's gonna happen. The Balrog's gonna.
But it sort of worked. Because it created a cave-in, and now the Balrog sealed off again.
Yeah, so this is my problem, is that can't be the plan. It can't be.
Well, no, I mean, mortals did fight Balrogs, like, in the first stage, didn't they?
I don't remember. I'm a movie guy. I don't have no idea
but
how you fight a Balrog. But Gandalf says don't fight it and run. So I'm going to listen to that guy. He says our weapons can't do anything to it.
I think elves were going to toe-to-toe with Balrogs on the first stage. I believe they were.
Well, if I were a dwarf, I would not charge at a Balrog.
No, you probably shouldn't.
No.
But he's like, I don't know. He's very confident, maybe. I don't know.
Sure, but okay, but to me, the plan. So his plan essentially is, I'm going to jump at this Balrog, smash its sword with my axe, which I guess my axe is like made of really strong material that can kind of withstand a bit of fire, and it would like explode and create a cave, and I'll die in the process, but I'll protect the dwarves. Wouldn't it be better to like retreat and like seal this thing off and try to help the dwarves manage living in this mountain with a Balrog? I don't know. It just seems it's one of those things where I was like,
but I don't know. I think this is an important part of the arc. Like that's the what do you call it? The tragic hero. Like he
right. No, they did the same.
He needs to have his you need to have your redemption. His redemption is like, forgive me. He's realizing what he did wrong. And then he needs to die. That's how this arc works.
I completely agree. Boromir is the prime example. His death makes a lot more sense than this, though. Mm-hmm. And that's my problem. It's like, I liked everything about this. I like the arc, exactly what you're saying. I don't like how they handle it, and I don't like the way they film it. And it's not even that it doesn't look good. Like, the scene where he charges into the Balrog looks pretty cool, to be honest. But the setup for it, and like this weird, there's like a moment where he can like stand and like slowly talk to his son, and like, you're just getting stronger, my son, King Durin, and then he like charges in. Like, just the way the pacing of it was just it was not quite right for me. Now this is just the prologue of the episode, so it's not even like this. This isn't the only thing I have issues with. And if it was just this, I wouldn't have that big of a problem. This is like the start of my issues. As far as things go, this scene is much better than most. But I do have an issue with how they structured this character's arc right in this moment.
I think they should I think they should go more into it. Like they should have him like falling to the lowest dungeon like Gandalf did. Then they can have a fight on the stair, but this time the Balrog wins.
I honestly think there should have been more to the scene too. I do think maybe you cut away here and then come back to it if you're gonna, because I do think this is a cool way to end it. I just don't like the way they had brought us to this point. And I'm still kind of confused because, like, the cave-in happens, but does the Balrog not care to like go through? Like, so
I don't know. Like, I mean, this is a plot hole for sure.
Okay,
like,
so you see what I'm saying, though, right?
Why doesn't the Balrog, like, this got to be like the thinnest layer of cave-in,
right? Right. So it's not even like that. Like, my issue is kind of that incorporated with my other problems with the scene, in that if the cave-in even does stop it, that kind of is silly in the first place. Like, why does the Balrog care? Oh, there's a dwarf here. I must kill it. Oh, the rocks caved it. Oh, whatever. I'm gonna go back to bed. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
But okay, so that scene. There's a lot of good in that scene, and moments in that scene are some of my favorite moments. So I'm just setting the stage for some of these scenes where I have zero favorite moments and I hate the whole thing. So we kick things off by jumping back in with our favorite wizard, and he's looking for his Harfoot friends.
Yes. So he's approaching the store village.
Now, okay, is this village hidden or not? I thought it was hidden. How does everyone know where this village is?
It's not very hidden, I guess.
But it was hidden. It was like behind this rock and like down a crevice. Like you couldn't even see it.
It's hidden like superficially, but they've been there for like hundreds of years or whatever.
But Gandalf doesn't know it.
Yeah, I don't know how Gandalf found it.
Yeah, so he just finds it.
So that's another problem. Gandalf being able to find it so easily is a problem.
So,
but I imagine Dark Wizard and these like horseman guys, they know where this is.
Yeah, I'm sure Dark Wizard knows where it is, but like it's the speed at which this is all happening. So, okay, bear with me here. So Gandalf is looking for his friends. He finds this village of other halflings, and he just decides to go talk to them, I guess, because that makes sense. Maybe they'll know. And that's when he meets the Dark Wizard, who's also there for some reason.
Yeah, I guess he knew Gandalf would go there. I don't know, or we don't know he's Gandalf yet. But
well, I think you know what we're late to releasing these episodes. People know this is Gandalf, and the way they really they've been hinting at it for a while, and you've picked up on some that I haven't even picked up on. They then just straight up, like, if there's still people out there that are guessing, they then have these goofy names that come up that are just the worst, like Grand Elf, and just constantly repeating it. It's a little much. We'll get there. But so we get a great bit of dialogue. So again, like some of this dialogue is actually pretty good. Like the adding in the old friend, like a great reference to the original trilogy, but without like overdoing it. But what the hell's going on in this scene? The Dark Wizard decides, I'm gonna meet Gandalf at this Stewar's town.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to proposition him to join me to defeat Sauron, because people have a misunderstanding about who I am, because men are just distrustful and they don't know what's going on. This conversation then goes really badly, and like just the way this whole scene happens. So he's got these nomad friends, and then he plays it all up. So he's like, you guys, you promised me you would. I told you not to hurt these people, and they say, you promised us something, and so we're not leaving until we get it. And he's like, oh, I was foolish to place my trust in this such low company. And then he like beams them with his staff. Then the other guys turn and run. They're still holding the Harfoots. Like I don't know why they just leave them there. It's just one of those moments where luckily it happened this way, because it could have gone down a whole lot worse. Like imagine if like they got scared and just killed the Harfoots and ran. You know what I mean? Like their knife is right there. And so in that case, then, Gandalf would get really, really upset. And heck, that could have even made the scene. I don't want to kill the Harfoots, but that could have made the scene build a little bit better in terms of how it actually goes, which is, I'm going to prove my trust to Gandalf by killing this random dude and this random nomad. And then we get like it's already been established, so the Harfoots can have this moment. So it's not that bad, but like, even though you killed these guys, that doesn't mean we trust you, because killing isn't something that we like, and so that's not gonna bring us closer to trusting you. Which like the Harfoots kind of have that demeanor, so it's fine. But just like the way this scene happens, you got this dark wizard in the Hobbit village, and he's like, you must join me, Gandalf. And Gandalf says, and would you replace him? Like that's his first question, which good question. I just they're kind of rushing to the crux of the dilemma here. And Gandalf says, "No, I'm not going to join you because you just want to become Sauron's replacement." And so then the Dark Wizard just gets really upset with this and just like, screw it, I'm gonna rain rocks down on everyone. I don't like this. The way the scene pans out, it's almost like they needed to add some more tension to this scene. But the thing is, you don't need it. Like, you don't need tension like this when you have proper tension that you have in dialogue that you get in the original trilogy. Like, prior to the battle between Saruman and Gandalf in the original trilogy, there's some great tension in that. And that is all you need. You don't even need the battle. You could cut the battle, to be honest. Like the real tension is in that lead up and dialogue and the expression that Gandalf has when he realizes that, Saruman has been using the Palantir and he's kind of being corrupted. And even like prior to that, Gandalf is just shocked at like the knowledge that Saruman has. He's like, how do you know this? Like he's that kind of moment. There's an intensity to it that is missing from this scene, and then all of a sudden it's rockfall. Now the rockfall's cool, and some of the dialogue is good. It's just the structure of the scene is how it plays out, where it just kind of has this like meandering, I don't know, like indifference to like what these characters are actually trying to do. It's just trying to be a cool scene. And that's my issue. And so, like, the scene isn't even that bad because I do like the fact that Gandalf, chose to go find his friends, because that is a Gandalf move. He then chooses not to join someone who claims to know him. So this is something he's been searching for the entire show. Who am I? What's my name? Like, what's going on? This guy says, I know who you are.
Yeah, you're the reason I'm here. You're the one who convinced me to come.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Like, he has, like, a great, like, setup. And then Gandalf asks a great follow-up. What are you gonna do after we kill Sauron, or after we deal with Sauron? And that's when he realizes, this guy just wants to control the world himself. And he says, no, I'm not gonna go with you. That guy then has a spaz attack and just rains rocks down. Is that really what we expect a wizard to do? you know what I mean? Like I almost feel like it's a bit rushed in terms of this wizard should have been trying to play it up a bit more and not get so upset and not even like initially say I want to control the world after Sauron. He just kind of lets it slip a little too easily. And again, it's happening in a Harfoot in like what are they called? Stewars. It's happening in a weird little village instead of in like the Dark Wizard's throne room, which I think is more fitting for this conversation. So just the whole thing just feels a bit weird to me. But again,
Yeah,
good
I mean,
moments.
like, why? You're right. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been a different setting. Like, I don't know. He bumps into the riders with the hobbits, and the riders say, "We're taking the hobbits here. If you want them, you have to come to the Dark Wizard's tower."
Yeah, or you know what? Like just to give Gandalf like a little bit more oomph, he finds the village, but he's too late. They've already been taken. And then they point him in the direction of where the Dark Wizard lives. And Gandalf is like, I've got to go save my friends. So willy-nilly, he just goes in there. And that's when you get the confrontation. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe that would give it a little, like, maybe that would make it feel a bit better. And then it would be okay for the wizard to kind of freak out and they would have this little battle, like this mini battle. It's not even a battle, though, because all he does is rain the rocks down and leave. Meanwhile, Gandalf is blocking it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird moment as well, where instead of like watching the rocks actually kill the victims, he's almost like indifferent. He's like, screw it, rocks everyone, and then walks away. Doesn't even look back to see Gandalf like actually doing something. So anyway, again, it's like a moment where I think there was some decisions that were not quite right, but there's good in this scene too. And that's why
maybe Dark Wizard didn't want to actually hurt the Harfoots. He knew that Gandalf.
There's no way Dark Wizard or Saruman give two shits about Harfoots. I'm sorry.
Maybe he does.
No, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, I'm not even gonna go based on the books because the books clearly show like the disdain that Saruman eventually gets for the hobbits. But in the movies, even there's like he doesn't even care. He almost like jokes as like, you've been spending too much time with those like in that area, like that.
Smoking too much weed, basically.
Yeah, like it's not you're not productive over there. Like those things, like it's useless. The hobbits don't do anything. You're wasting your time over there. Okay, so two scenes that on the cusp of great faltered.
Also killing off the Brank. That's the leader of the horse riders. That I thought he might end up being a Nazgul. So that's one guy eliminated from my potential Nazgul list.
Yeah, and that was almost like a red herring, right? Because like they kind of had set that up with the mask and everything, and even like what were they asking for? I was thinking they were asking for immortality.
Yeah, what did they want from the Dark Wizard? Yeah,
and then in a way he like grants it to them, but they're cursed into some, I don't know, whatever. Like I didn't really know what was going to happen there. But I thought that might be the direction that they go. Now, we're not there yet, so I'll bring it up later. But it has to do with the staffs as well, the staff that the wizard has. But before that, we've got to jump to... okay, here's a scene I actually like. Because we actually talked about... You predicted this, believe it or not, when we talked about a previous scene in a previous episode where the Númenórean guards come and disturb this place of worship. And we had talked about the Romans doing something similar around religion. And now we get to see that like this conflict between the believers and the non-believers is come to a head here where it's now time for these guys to go. Like, and you predicted that. You're like, that's exactly what happened, where you just had these like massive conflicts, people, going door to door, getting rid of people who believe in the wrong religion or whatever. So we're seeing that happen here, and I actually like how the scene plays out. This is one of the better scenes in the episode. I have no problems here. So just so everyone understands what we're talking about, Farazan has gathered all of the high-ranking members of the clergy, or not the clergy, but you know what I mean, like the high-ranking religious members, and they're all gathered in the throne room. And then Farazan enters with his lackey. I forget this guy's name. And
Balzagar.
yeah. Now, the one question I have about the scene is that piece of paper. Who wrote that piece of paper? What
I
is
don't
that?
know. I don't
Because
know.
okay, and here's the thing: I don't even care about the piece of paper because, like, to be honest, that's just a piece of paper with some writing on it. It's more about the fact that they give it to the religious leader, the head of everything. He reads it, and his faith is like crumbling before our eyes.
But
What is
like he could have written anything. Like anyone could have written that.
Farazan could have wrote that paper. How do we know what's on that paper? But essentially, it is basically labeling the believers as being treasonous because it was through this treasonous way that Queen Muriel was able to overcome the sea monster.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's saying that the reason that she's able to overcome the sea monsters because she's in cahoots with Sauron. So Farazan knows
That's
that
right.
Halbrand's Sauron now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So
And
because she's in cahoots, quote unquote, with Sauron, now all religious people are treasonous. See, to me, like, I'm confused as to why. I'm fine with the scene up until the moment that the religious leader reads the piece of paper and is like shocked to find this out. Find out what what is on this paper that's so shocking, and even if it is that like, Queen Muriel knew Sauron, that has nothing to do with the religion.
I mean, could that be the? Because they had the same moment with the scroll in season 1 with Elrond and Galadriel. They read it and they realize the line is broken. Halbrand can't be the king of the Southlands. But I mean, there's a lot of stretch there saying, okay, Sauron.
But also, they don't know, like, but remember, the Numenorians don't really know anything. So they thought this was some random guy. And Galadriel's like, no, he's actually the king of the Southlands. And he was like, no, I'm not. That was what was happening. He never said he was the king of the Southlands. And it wasn't until they were already in Middle Earth, none of these people know this because they weren't there. So the only thing you could say is like, oh, the queen let Sauron both come into the city. She didn't really let him. Her captain, the Sea Guard, brought him in because he picked him up off a shipwreck, and then she sent them back away. So it's not even like I just don't know. Even if it says like the line was broken or hey, we have definitive proof Halbrand was Sauron, how does that label every religious person in Numenor as a traitor?
It's a stretch, yeah.
So that's my one problem. I would much rather this scene not have where they give him the piece of paper. They just hold the document up, like to show everyone, we have reason to believe whatever Queen was working with Sauron, and you're all traitors, whatever. That way is way better because then the religious person, they don't even know what it says, and they might still be believers. This guy, the leader, whatever his name is, he's done. He is like his belief has been shattered somehow. He's like, this can't be. And it's Sauron. He even says Sauron. So now all the so-called faithful are declared traitors. Like, what? Anyway, So I like the rest of that scene, though. I like the fact that we eventually did come to this moment of, if you're still religious to the old Valar ways, you're a traitor. We knew this was coming. And then even the scene here where they're like taking people out of their homes, it's brutal. It's well done. It's well shot. I thought there's actually
Yeah, what are they
tension.
doing with them? What's
See,
gonna
I don't
happen?
know. I don't know, and that's what I don't know if they're gonna kill
Is
them
this
or like.
they going to prison, or are they going to be put in ghetto?
Yeah, like
Or...
it's not clear, but I just like the chaos that's happening. And then we see Hermione, she's like, "Oh, we've gone too far." In fact,
She's
she
gonna want
opens the
word.
scene. I should say she opens the scene in like one of the most creepy ways. Because she's the one that gathers everyone, but she's like the only like it's just the religious people in her, and they go, what is the meaning of this? What's going on? She's like, I was just told to bring you here. I have no answers. And then so she sees what's going on. She's like, oh, I didn't sign up for this. This is too much. And then she runs off to find her dad. Because her dad is like second in command. I'm not really sure how the command works, but you essentially have the queen, the high priest, I'll call him, and then you have Elendil. And those three are like the top people of the religious group in Numenor. And so they already have the religious leader now. She goes to quickly find her dad, and there's actually a pretty good scene here too, where she saves her dad. So she finds her dad, explains what's going on, kind of. Basically, guys are coming to get you. You got to leave. And then she holds them off by saying, I've checked this area. There's nobody here. These aren't the droids you're looking for. And she gets some pushback from this guard. And this guard gets kind of mouthy with her. So she's like, do you want me to tell Farazan about your insolence? There's nobody in there. Go next. I kind of like that. It gives her a bit more like she's starting to understand how she can play this game a bit better. Before she was a bit of a puppet, and now she's realizing that, and so she's starting to come into her own. And so it's a good moment for her. You can see it in her eyes, like she's understanding how she might be able to maintain her. Like she does not agree with what's going on, but at the same time, you can't just say, "Hey, I'm done," because then she'll be put in prison. So she's gonna try to like, from the inside, it seems, do some good. But her dad then has to run off to save Queen Muriel, who I don't know how she's not already taken into custody, to be honest. But I guess she was.
Yeah, you're right.
In her tower.
She thinks she'd be the first one.
Honestly, though, okay, so I think so. This is a moment where I don't hate any of these scenes. I just have a bit of like notes that I might have done things differently, but I'm fine the way they did it. This scene is completely fine with me. But I think what would have been a better idea is to have her like kind of already captured, and maybe Elendil like breaks into prison,
sneaks in. It's like, I can get you out.
and she says, "No, this is what this is what I like my vision."
But how's she supposed to give him Narsil if?
I know. It's a cool moment. All right, we get Narsil.
By the way, I want you to have my sword. It's like hidden in my bedchamber. You're gonna sneak in there now and get it from there.
Yeah, no, I know, but like, so she had been so adamant that like, Farazan being king is the way to go because it's changed the prophecy. So I almost wanted her to like turn herself. She kind of does turn herself in, not gonna lie, but like, I kind of wanted that scene where, because she is so crazy herself. Like she's not possessed. She's just insane. Her prophecy of like there's a big flood coming, and somehow Farazan usurping the throne has made a better outcome for Numenor. So she's now completely cool with like whatever Farazan wants to do. She's like, that's the way it must be. That's what the prophecy is now. And so she's just completely like, okay, yep, religious people, we're now all traitors. That's the way it has to be to save Numenor. So she's gone. Like I don't know how she got to this level by touching that Palantir a couple times. Cause to me, I would just be like, hey, build bigger walls maybe, or I don't know, like there's going to be a big wave coming. We're going to have to figure it out. But she's like, nope, we got to keep going. with Farazan because he's changed the prophecy. Because when Elendil touched it, he didn't see a wave. He saw himself riding a horse.
Yeah.
So that's the prophecy now. Anything to get Elendil onto that horse. So she gives him the sword, and the sword looks pretty good. It's very close. If not, like, I think there's probably, if someone could compare them and show that they're not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. It looks pretty good. I'm glad they went with this design, and even the way, like, Elendil takes it out and looks at it with his face, very stylish, very similar to his great 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 grandson. So I like all that. Yeah, really happy with that, and I do hope we get some fight scenes with that sword, because that'll bring back some great memories for us. All right, we then jump back to the siege of Eregion, which is still going on, believe it or not.
Right.
And
The orcs have entered the city. Yeah, the orcs are winning.
and this is a really cool shot. So it is a one shot, and this is something when I watched this. So again, when I watched this, I was having some eye roll moments, but at this moment in my viewing, I did not hate the episode, and I was almost like, this could be a great episode. There's been a few hiccups with some of the scenes, but nothing egregious. And then this shot comes. There is nothing like this in the original trilogy, and it made me think that, like, man, if Peter Jackson could, like, have added a long one take, that would have just, if you could make the original trilogy better, that would be one way to do it for me, because I love one takes, especially when they're used like this, where we get to see, because essentially you're trying to show the entire setting with this one character. So we follow this elf who's been shooting arrows. He's now, his part of the wall is collapsing, so he's running for it. He jumps from a tower, slides down a roof, lands into a courtyard, and starts firing arrows through a doorway, only to get shot himself. Meanwhile, we now follow the orcs who just shot this guy. They are running into all sorts of doors, and they run into this one hallway. The camera pans away, and all of a sudden, boom, out comes Galadriel and cuts down two orcs, like, seamlessly. She's now leading a group of, I guess, like, they're like craftsmen and artisan elves that they don't have any weapons, so she's trying to, like, lead them to those old dwarf tunnels, and she's got to be fighting these orcs along the way. The scene keeps going. She kills two more orcs that come out of nowhere and try to get these people. So, like, that whole shot, that's great. That's a great scene. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out, because a lot of people have problems with some of the looks of newer films and TV, and that's one where the director was utilizing that style effectively. Now, the next part doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because Galadriel does lead these elves through this old dwarf tunnel, only to be ambushed. Like, the orcs knew about it.
Yeah. So they could have gone in the whole time.
Right. Like, so Adar knew about the tunnel. Did he have people? He didn't have people stationed here before, because this is how Galadriel got in. She would have seen them. So
Yeah.
he wasn't even guarding it before.
I know.
And then, okay, so, if you set these elves free, I will go willingly. All right, we're going to get a scene in here where Sauron talks about orcs in the way I expect orcs to be. These orcs look fantastic, act like ugly people. Like, they're just people, because they're supposed to be, like, bloodthirsty and, like, amped up and, like, wanting to fight, and they're like, oh, okay, let those ones go, we'll take this one elf. Like, that's not the orcs that I know and love. I play orcs when I play Warhammer. This is making me not want to play orcs. I'm upset with how these orcs handle themselves. These orcs do not deserve the name orc. Anyway, they then decide, okay, yeah, we're just we cut away from that, but essentially they decide to let the elves go free and just bring Galadriel to Adar. Now,
Yeah.
I honestly, when I heard that this show was getting a higher rating, I was expecting some stuff that I might not even be a fan of. They just let all these elves go free. Elves,
Oh, that's a good point. At what point have we seen something that would warrant an R rating?
right? I expected them to just slaughter those elves. And like Galadriel was not able to fend, like she would kill
I
some.
guess the Celebrimbor dying was a little graphic.
It
That's
is graphic.
That's it though.
And I don't like this scene. Again, the dialogue's pretty good. I
we'll
hate.
Get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to
Yeah,
it.
you know what? Let's go. It's the next scene, so let's talk about it. So we find ourselves watching a Celebrimbor that has 4 arrows in him, and then he's
Actually,
shot with a 5th.
I was gonna say actually to explain. Maybe Galadriel. Why didn't? I was gonna give the excuse that Galadriel maybe has influence over the orcs because of the rings.
So the only
But why would you use that to just get away completely?
yeah. So to me, the only explanation that makes sense is Adar has said, "Don't harm Galadriel," and they have no way of stopping her from.
And she lost track of the assignment. The assignment was get basically to Linden with these
Yes.
9.
Oh, I know. She completely fumbles this hard.
Everything's her fault.
What?
Everything.
Yeah, I know. This is gonna make it so much harder to watch.
She didn't tell Celebrimbor how Bran was Sauron when she knew.
Yep.
And when he told her to get as far away as possible with the 9 rings, she says, "Take me to Adar."
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna join the orcs. I know. It makes it so much harder to watch Fellowship because every time I see her, like, this is all your fault. Why did you do this? Why did you mess all this up? You don't deserve that ring on your finger. You screwed everything. All right, yeah. So we're now.
But big time.
She brought him here in the first place, and she brought him to Numenor. She did everything.
But I can forgive her accidentally reintroducing Sauron. There's a lot of coincidences, but at the point where she doesn't tell Celebrimbor,
Yeah, her own embarrassment, her own shame. I mean, okay, I don't even know how she has more shame to give because she has already was sent away to Valinor, jumped off the ship, disobeyed her king, was mutinied upon earlier. At this point, you just say, I screwed up again, that's Sauron. Like, you're already like the bane of all the elves. Like, they don't like you. Only Elrond seems to still try and like Galadriel. Everyone else doesn't like her, and that's gonna change. That changes instantly every time she's with other elves. They instantly forgive her and like look to her for guidance. She somehow snapped all those elves out of Sauron's control, and was like, "Oh yeah, Halbrand Sauron. This is Celebrimbor, the great elven smith. You know." He's been corrupted. He's your leader. Like everyone just instantly believed her.
Yeah.
Here we have Galadriel and Celebrimbor, 2 insanely crazy elves that are high on their own smells and just are oblivious to what's going on, and everyone's just gonna start trusting them again. I don't if I was a random guard in a Region, I'd be looking at that like, these 2 idiots. I'm not gonna trust anything they say. We had to mutiny Galadriel because she's insane, and Celebrimbor hasn't been seen in weeks, and now he comes out missing his finger, shouting random nonsense about how the mice are the same and the candles don't change. Like, he's crazy too. I'm following Anatar. He is the true guidance here.
Yeah.